Hey everyone, this video is going to be about how you can get cheaper car insurance. And this video is going to be primarily targeted at younger drivers who've maybe just passed their test and got their license and are looking to buy their first car but have been shocked by the horrendous prices of car insurance that's out there at the moment. I'm going to be sharing with you a few tips that I've found that have brought down my car insurance over the few years that I've been driving, and hopefully it can help you as well. My first tip is for you to use comparison sites, and this is a really good way to be able to compare lots of different insurers and find out which is going to be the cheapest for you, and also what companies are actually out there that can insure you, because not every car insurance company is going to insure a brand new driver or a young driver or a driver who lives in a particular area. So it's a good idea to check on those websites and also have a look on at companies that aren't on comparison websites, such as Direct Line, and there's a few others. I'll leave them in the description. There are quite a few factors that affect your car insurance premium, and the main one, in my opinion, is age. The younger you are, the more you pay, and there's no real way around that. If you can't make yourself older just so you can get cheaper car insurance. So if you're young, just be prepared to pay a lot of money. And then the second factor is your location. So for example, I live in Greater London, and it costs a lot more to insure a car in London than it does in further out in certain places in Essex, for example. So it really has a big effect how your area is rated, and there's a website that you can check to see what your area is rated like by car insurers, and I'll leave a link below in the description for that as well for you to have a look at. So it really depends on your postcode and how many people have had accidents or had their car stolen who also park their cars in that same postcode. You may be thinking a way around this is to put a different address on your car insurance, which a lot of people do, but it is illegal. So in a case like this is a form of fronting. So if your car insurer finds out about this, they can cancel your policy, and if you get your policy cancelled, you usually have to declare that when you're applying to other companies. So they often increase your premium, not even offer you a quote at all if you've been put in that situation or put yourself in that situation. So what I advise is taking advantage of the situation you're in. So let's say you're studying in university, and the majority of the time your car is parked at uni and not at home, and it has to be the majority of the time, not just a few days here and there. In that case, you could use your university address as the location that your vehicle is stored overnight, rather than your home address, which may or may not be a higher risk area. So that's one way that you can increase or decrease your car insurance. Or let's say your parents live separately and your car spends an equal time between two locations, parked between two locations. You can put the one that's going to be cheapest, and there wouldn't be a problem with that, since you're not really lying, you're telling the truth about your situation, but you're taking advantage of the cheapest option. One thing that I recommend to decrease the price of your insurance is to pay yearly if you can afford to do so. It's usually cheaper to pay your full year's insurance all in one go rather than pay monthly. You might save off maybe around £100 or so, just for example, on your car insurance, depending on how expensive it actually is. Another important factor is your no claims discount or no claims bonus. And you might be thinking, I've just started driving, how is it possible to have no claims bonus? Well, if you're watching this video and you haven't already started driving, you haven't already bought a car or anything like that, and you're at an age, maybe you're 16 years old and you can afford to buy a moped or something like that. If you have an insurance policy that gives you a no claims discount on that motorbike, then you can start building that up towards when you start driving. So you might find yourself in a situation that maybe you've already got 1 or 2 years no claims bonus, and when you start driving, that will greatly decrease the cost of your insurance compared to someone who has zero. So what you find is a lot of insurers won't insure someone at all if they have a low number of no claims. And in case you don't know what I mean by no claims, that's the number of years that you've been driving and haven't had to make an insurance claim for anything. One thing that's really important when taking out car insurance is your additional drivers. So if you're fortunate enough to be in a situation that you've got other people around you living in the same household as you or living near you who also drive, you can add them as additional drivers to your insurance policy, and that will bring down the price of your insurance depending on who they are and their driving experience. So those of you who are living at home with your parents, I strongly recommend, if your parents have been driving for a long time like mine have, you can put them on your insurance, and it might bring your cost of your premium down by over £1,000. Talking of taking advantage of other people who are around you, you can also sign up for a multi-car insurance policy. So I know Admiral do this, Direct Line also do this, and there's other companies that have multi-car policies as well. And these are generally everyone in the family or living together in one household is all on the same insurance policy, and it means that the price of that policy in total is brought down for everyone. So let's say there's 3 of you living at home, and all 3 of you are on a multi-car policy with the same insurer. With the same insurer, you probably get a cheaper quotes altogether than all 3 of you going with separate companies. So that's something that I've done, and it's really helped with bringing down the cost of my insurance. One thing that I've noticed that people often overlook is the actual car itself that you're trying to insure. And I recommend that you always check the cost of insuring a car before you actually buy it, because you could land yourself in a really nasty situation that you paid for a car and you can't actually insure it. So you may find that cars that seem like they're small and maybe for first drivers, so I'll use the Mini Cooper for example, may be deceptively expensive to insure. So you might think that it's you might think that the car you're buying is, because it's small and it has a smaller engine, is going to be cheap to insure, but insurers don't rate cars just based upon their engine size alone. It's usually to do with how much horsepower that car is producing, so how quick it goes, and how many people are actually having accidents in that car. How many times is that car getting stolen every single day? So those are things that insurers use to calculate their risk. So you may find, even in some strange situations, like that cars that young people wouldn't usually buy, such as an older Volvo or a classic car, may be much cheaper to insure than your standard first car, such as a Vauxhall Corsa or Renault Clio. So it's good to shop around and see what you find and get your quotes before you put any cash towards a car and purchase one. One thing that's important to stay away from is modifications. So there are some modifications which could potentially bring down the cost of your premium, but it's unlikely. So these are things like parking sensors or additional mirrors or something like that. Things that are modifications that make the car safer and make you a safer driver. But things that draw more attention to the car, such as some interior modifications that attract thieves or make the car faster, so engine mods, performance chips, exhausts, things like that. These can really drive up the cost of your insurance by hundreds of pounds, and you may find yourself in a case, if you bought a really heavily modified car, that you can't actually insure the vehicle at all. So it's a good thing to check, list out all of your modifications, which is really important, because let's say you have alloy wheels on your car and your insurance doesn't know, and they're custom wheels, and you get involved in a small accident or something like that, and the insurer comes around to check the car. If they find that there's a change on the vehicle that they don't know about at all, they can cancel the whole policy and refuse to pay anything out. So it's important to check these things over. One other thing that it's good to look at is whether or not a third-party policy is cheaper than a comprehensive one for you. So if the value of your car isn't very much in the first place, you wouldn't really want to spend a whole lot extra on paying for a comprehensive policy. So for example, let's say your car is only worth like £200 and it costs £200 extra to get a comprehensive policy, then in that case it might not be worth it for you. But if you're driving around a car that is going to cost a lot for you to fix or repair if it gets into an accident, so let's say your car is like £3,000 and it's only a few pounds cheaper to go for a third-party policy, then in that case it doesn't make sense to not get a comprehensive policy. Usually they're the same price, and even in some cases comprehensive is cheaper than third-party. Still talking about the choice of vehicle, when you're choosing a car for your first car, I strongly recommend you find something that is small and it doesn't have to be physically small, but a car that isn't a very high performance car, so a car that isn't that quick, in other words. So I'd recommend looking in between the 1 litre and 1.6 range. Even 1.6 might be pushing it if you've just started driving, and find a vehicle that is not really got any performance association. Trim levels can also have an effect on your insurance and how much you pay. So I'll use the Vauxhall Corsa for example. They usually start with the more basic models such as Life and like Design, and then you go up to SXI, SXI Plus, SRI, and forgive me if I got this wrong because I know it might be different for right now in 2017, but yeah, SXI Plus and then SRI and Elite. So if you're choosing a higher trim level, you might find that you'll pay more on your insurance compared to a lower one. So I recommend if you're struggling with finding your quote too expensive, then maybe look for cars that have slightly less features. So maybe one that doesn't have leather seats or body kit or something like that. And because the trim level will be lower, you'll find that your insurance cost will probably be cheaper because it's less attractive to thieves, and usually maybe not bought by people who might drive in a more aggressive manner. One thing that I forgot to mention while I was filming this video was black box insurance, and that's because I usually avoid it because I personally don't like being the thought of being monitored or anyone tracking my location or the time that I'm driving my car, things like that. But this is often the cheapest way to get insured because the insurance company is able to monitor the way that you're driving and determine more accurately how much of a risk you actually are to them. So if you decide to go down the black box route, you'd sign up with the insurance and they would come round, or you'd go to a specific place to have a box fitted in your car, and that would track your speed, your location, your braking, and all of the characteristics of your driving. So if you don't mind this is probably the cheapest way to get insured, alongside with all of the other bits of advice that I've given in this video. So make sure you at least check it out and see if it's for you. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like it and subscribe and share with anyone you think will also find it useful. All of my links to my social media are in the description, so feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and any of my other social networks. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time guys, see you.